Achieved with CryEngine 3.
Officially announced in April of 2012, Crysis 3 was published by Electronic Arts for Microsoft Windows, the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, making it the third and final episode in the series. A budget of nearly $66 million and a team of approximately 100 people helped to develop the game over nearly a 2-year production cycle, but only 205,000 copies were sold in its debut month, resulting in commercial failure for EA. Undertaking this review has given me the incentive to complete the game's single-player campaign for the first time, as I've never progressed beyond about the halfway point before.
That's why they've locked everything down. He's on his way to the skinning lab. Who'd be stupid enough to go after him?
All stations red alert.
5-2, perimeter normal. Area secure, over. The guy's some super soldier.
Super soldier, my ass. He bleeds like the rest of us.
No, this one doesn't.
The setting for the third and final chapter in the series features a post-apocalyptic, overgrown New York City set in 2047. The corrupt corporation, Cell, have managed to utilize the aliens' technology to produce an unlimited supply of energy, thus establishing a monopoly on the world's power and thereby enslaving part of Earth's population. We pick things up with Prophet having been captured by Cell, who have the intention of skinning or removing him from the nanosuit, which is of particular importance to Cell, as the technology within contains genetic information about the Ceph. While being transported to a giant nanodrome known as the Liberty Dome, Psycho, now part of a resistance group, rescues Prophet, and the two then embark on a mission to uncover Cell's corruption and motives. One of their main objectives is to bring down the source to Cell's power, known as System X, which is located in New York. As the story gathers pace, we see a three-way conflict ensue between the Ceph, Cell, and our protagonists, with the expected showdown between Prophet and the Alpha Ceph at the very end. The game features a typical larger-than-life story which didn't strike me one way or another. Having thought about it just a little more, I can appreciate the pathos clearly evident in Crysis 3, which I think is to the game's credit, even though, as mentioned, I didn't find the story to be particularly compelling on a personal level.
Let's get out of here before Cell turns us into roast potatoes.
Owing to criticism about Crysis 2's lack of open environments, the levels in Crysis 3 were designed to present a greater degree of freedom. However, I did encounter precious little of note when exploring through these larger areas. The reduced functionality of the nanosuit that we saw in Crysis 2 is still evident here, and although there's no manually selectable strength or speed options, there are some additional differences included this time, like the ability to hack enemy drones, turrets, lasers, mines, Ceph technology, weapon boxes, and security codes. Players can tag enemies via using their visor, and also have the option to improve their nanosuit via upgrade modules, such as improvements to endurance, stealth, and deflection. This, I thought, was an enjoyable addition, thereby adding in some extra replay value. The weapons did seem a little more diverse this time, though I believe some were also renamed from the previous games. For example, the Jackal making its return as the Alpha Jackal. For lovers of stealth, there is a bow which can be used when cloaked, and aside from the option of basic arrows, there are electric and explosive alternatives which will usually kill in one strike. Checkpoints throughout are well placed, and along the way you will gradually accrue pieces of intel which serve to explain points of interest in greater detail, such as the storyline and weapon statistics. I found reading this proved to be my preferred means of digesting and absorbing the plot, along with other types of info. The Npc Ai has reportedly been improved, so enemies can now better react to a threat. For the most part, I didn't find many immersion-breaking moments, though at times there were inconsistencies, with my main gripe being the cell operatives possessing what I can only describe as ultra-sensitive hearing. It was like they had a superpower of their own. Unfortunately, the character and weapon field of view seems to reset itself when you start a new area, which you can alter by hitting the tiled key to open up the console. To remedy this, simply type CL_FOV and then add the number you want at the end. I believe 80 is the maximum. Then, on the next line, add R_draw near FOV and again choose a value. I did try altering the config file, but for some reason it didn't make for a permanent solution, but maybe there's a way around this that I'm not aware of.
That was a bit messy. Maybe you need this. A bow? Yeah. Makes you an invisible, silent killing machine. Serious kit, this. You like it? No. Well, that's because you haven't heard the good part. Carbon lasers map that bow to your nanosuit. It has enough kinetic energy to stop a rhino dead. With interchangeable heads, you can drop an explosive charge on any target. And best of all, you stay cloaked. You like it now? I'm coming around.
Crysis 3 does indeed look impressive and was a regular staple in PC benchmarking for some time after its release. And as mentioned before, there is a noteworthy degree of pathos injected into the campaign, with cutscenes demonstrating this admirably at times. One example which springs to mind is when Prophet first arrives at the Resistance HQ and meets two of the major NPCs in the game, Claire Fontanelli and Carl Ernst Rasch. The game world is atmospheric, with animated environments helping to create an intense battlefield, like ships blasting their way overhead, or when sounds hark from various directions. At times I did wonder if what I was experiencing was a scripted or random event, and I especially like it when a game has me guessing about something like that. It can make the whole experience that much more immersive. Although I remember TXAA being mentioned on various media when it was newly released, I don't believe I've ever actually used it before. So it was an interesting experiment to try out and compare with other forms of AA. Initially I was rather surprised with the result, as the edge shimmering we know all too well in video games was now greatly reduced. That said, I was quite content to stick with FXAA, as a consistent frame rate is of greater importance as far as I'm concerned. Though sometimes I did temporarily employ a lower level of SMAA or MSAA, but usually found myself reverting to FXAA for most of the game anyway. Aside from the impact of the more performance-demanding forms of anti-aliasing, I found the game ran well on my system, which, at the time of making this video, consists of an i5 6600K, GTX 980 Ti, and a 1440p display. Although I wouldn't say the music score in Crysis 3 ranks among my all-time favourites, the work here is nonetheless a very solid addition to the game. The voice acting is also consistently strong and complements the cutscenes well.
Keep low. You okay? It's nothing. There. Mark of death. If that spots you, you're fucked. Back! Get back!
Sadly, unlike with Crysis 2, there seems to be very little in the way of community content. Something along the lines of Maldo's HD mod would be great to try out, even if it was a scaled down or light version of sorts. I didn't encounter much in the way of bugs, though two instances do stick out in my mind. One was a floating tyre, and the second was when a cell soldier just would not die. However, reloading my last saved position sorted this anomaly out. One feature in games that I particularly dislike is when you're continually being prompted to keep up with a moving NPC, which is tiresome if you simply wish to stop and explore at your own pace. I'm pleased to report that I didn't notice this, for example when accompanying Psycho, so kudos to the developers for that. It's not unusual for my campaigns to take longer than what is advertised. However, even my single player experience seemed to conclude surprisingly quickly when compared to other games, though I didn't mind this at all, as I often find games drag on for too long anyway. Eventually, the overall experience can outstay its welcome and become jaded. All in all, this is a fine offering from Crytek, but just don't expect the same wow factor associated with the original game to be replicated here.
Romeo 1, your mic is stuck open.
Oops.